Does your heart race in your chest when it's time for you to give a presentation? If so, I am going to share easy to do techniques with you in this conversation. They do not cost any money. You can do them anywhere and they work. If this is your first time encountering me, I am Dr. Shalonda Jones. I am a communication scholar and a public speaking coach. I specialize in helping professionals transform those concerns they have with public speaking into confidence so they can share their valuable input in the workplace and get the respect they deserve as knowledgeable and credible professionals. If you are ready to overcome those concerns you have with speaking up at work, make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you can get the information I share on a regular basis. I release brand new videos every week to help empower you to feel confident to speak up at work. In this conversation, we will talk about 3 different types of public speaking anxieties, the symptoms associated with each type of public speaking anxiety, and what to do to get rid of that anxiety. By the end of this conversation, you will have the ability to determine which type of public speaking anxiety you are experiencing and what to do about it. Let's start by talking about the first type of public speaking anxiety. But before I tell you what it is and what the symptoms are, I have to say this. Most people are unaware there are different types of public speaking anxieties. And when I tell people it is important to know the difference, the question I get in response is, why does that matter? Well, think about it this way. When you are hungry, you know which specific steps to take to stop feeling hungry. When you are feeling sick in your stomach, you know which specific steps to take to treat the illness. Well, the same concept applies to understanding the difference between the 3 different types of public speaking anxieties and what to do about them. This is why I am taking the time to help you understand the difference between the 3 different types of public speaking anxieties, the symptoms associated with each type, and what to do about them. So, to start, the first type of public speaking anxiety is called pre-performance anxiety. It is also called preparation anxiety. If I happen to say preparation anxiety, I am referring to pre-performance anxiety because they mean the same thing. And this is the first type of public speaking anxiety I will discuss because pre-performance anxiety happens when a person starts to feel anxious at the very thought of having to give a speech. Here's an example. I met someone who had an extreme case of preparation or pre-performance anxiety. When she found out I teach public speaking at a university, she said to me, I do not like to sit in an audience when someone is giving a presentation because the speaker may call on me. I don't want people looking at me. I don't want all of that attention on me. That's too much pressure. In order to prevent someone even calling on her to give a response when she's in the audience, she says she avoids public speaking settings as much as possible. That is an example of an extreme case of pre-performance anxiety. Just the idea of having to give a presentation makes a person feel anxious. The key to understanding pre-performance anxiety is to know that a person is not in a situation where they're actually delivering their presentation. The presentation hasn't come yet. It's the idea of having to give a presentation, which is why it's called pre-performance anxiety. These are some of the symptoms that typically go along with pre-performance anxiety. Overthinking, worrying about what might happen when it is time to give a presentation, or thinking that bad experiences from the past will happen again whenever a person is getting ready to give a presentation, not wanting to relive bad past experiences. Some of the physical and behavioral symptoms that lets a person know they are experiencing pre-performance anxiety include headache, a tense body, worrying, procrastination, which procrastination is actually a protective mechanism. A person will delay engaging in specific behaviors or completing specific tasks because they're shielding themselves from the possibility of failure or someone judging them in a negative way. The key indicator a person is experiencing pre-performance anxiety is they are consumed with worry about what might happen when it is actually time to give a presentation. Let's now talk about the second type of public speaking anxiety, and stick around to the end of this conversation because I will tell you the specific steps to take to address each type of public speaking anxiety. Right now, it's important to distinguish the three different types. The second type of public speaking anxiety is called performance anxiety. Performance anxiety happens in the moment when it is actually time to start speaking. So a person who experiences performance anxiety is different from preparation anxiety because this person can prepare, they can practice, but when it's actually time to give the presentation in the moment, that's when their heart starts to race. That's when their mind goes blank. That's when their pupils start to dilate. That's when sometimes it's hard to even get hello to come out of their mouth because they're choked up. And the anxiety they are experiencing has them feeling paralyzed. I have to make an important distinction while we are talking about performance anxiety. People often use public speaking fear to refer to public speaking anxiety, and those are two different things. Public speaking fear happens when a person feels nervous in the moment, but when they keep talking, the concerns go away. So when I hear people say, at first I feel nervous, but as I keep talking, I'm okay. That is an example of public speaking fear. Public speaking anxiety, on the other hand, lingers. It lingers. So for a person who is experiencing performance anxiety specifically, when they start to talk and they start to overthink and spiral into self-doubt, and because they're spiraling into self-doubt, they're now speaking faster because they want the experience to hurry up and come to an end, but then they start to fumble over their words. Those are all symptoms of performance anxiety. When a person experiences performance anxiety, they may perspire or sweat, their hands may tremble, their vision may get blurry, their voice might shake. All of those are symptoms of performance anxiety, especially when a person continues to experience those symptoms throughout the entire time they're giving their presentation. Now, again, make sure you stay to the end of this conversation because if this happens to you, I am going to tell you what you can do to deal with those concerns. But let's move on to the third type of public speaking anxiety, which is called post-performance anxiety. Post-performance anxiety is the third type of public speaking anxiety, and it happens when a person has already given their presentation, but they start to reflect on all of the things they feel like did not go well. They ruminate. So remember, pre-performance anxiety occurs before it's time to give a presentation. Performance anxiety occurs while a person is giving a presentation. Post-performance anxiety is different from those two because a person has already gone through the process of getting ready for the presentation. A person has already delivered their presentation. Now that the presentation is over and they're reflecting on what happened, they may be experiencing anxiety in the end when the speech is over. Some of the physical symptoms people feel in their body when they experience post-performance anxiety, and remember, this is after the speech is over. Their body may feel tensed and achy. Their stomach may be upset. They may even feel exhausted and drained. I've even seen some cases where people go away and hide because they feel so overwhelmed by the experience. This is an example of post-performance anxiety. One time I went to hear one of my clients give a presentation. She was into the second week of her coaching program with me, and I wanted to see her in real time delivering a presentation. Well, as I'm sitting in the audience, I could hear people around me commenting, "Oh, that's a good point. I did not think of that. Wow, I like the way she helped me to understand that. I understand it better." These are things that people in the audience are actually saying in response to the information she's sharing while she is giving her presentation. She can't hear them say these things. After her presentation's over, I go to talk to her and share with her what I'm hearing people around me in the audience say about her presentation. And before I could share this information with her, the first thing she says to me is, "I forgot to say," and she listed all of these things she forgot to say. Then she proceeds to say, "I mispronounced this word. I hadn't even noticed it." So those are examples of post-performance anxiety, ruminating on the things a person thinks did not go well in the presentation. Now, if you have a clear distinction between the three different types of public speaking anxieties, make sure you hit the thumbs up button and leave a comment to tell me which type of public speaking anxiety you experience. When we share this kind of information with each other in our community, it actually helps to empower other people because they know they are not the only person having these experiences, and we can share ideas with each other. So leave a comment which one of the three types of public speaking anxieties you experience. Now let's talk about what to do about them. If you are experiencing pre-performance anxiety or preparation anxiety, these are three things you can do to overcome that concern. First, I have a question for you. Do you talk to yourself? Of course you do. Everybody does. Everybody talks to themselves. It is called intra, I-N-T-R-A, personal communication. Talking to yourself doesn't always occur when you're speaking out loud. Talking to yourself can occur in the thoughts a person has. Those concerns, those worries, those thoughts that a person is having, that you may be having before it's time to give a presentation, that's actually a form of self-talk. And since we know that now, I'm going to encourage you to have a positive conversation with yourself. Think about yourself as your own best friend. If your best friend were to come to you with a concern, think about what you would say to your best friend to help them overcome that concern. Are you going to say something to support them, to encourage them, to uplift them? Are you going to give them tough love? Whatever type of conversation you would have with your friend, go stand in the mirror and look at yourself and have that same type of conversation with yourself. The type of conversation you would have with your friend lets you know what it takes to help you feel encouraged, uplifted, and supported. So have that same type of conversation with yourself. And if it's necessary, say it out loud to yourself. This is a step-by-step strategic way to use self-talk to deal with pre-performance anxiety, to get rid of it. Number one, the best way to demolish those concerns and worries that are going on in your head when you're experiencing pre-performance anxiety is to get them out of your head. You'll get those thoughts out of your head by getting a piece of paper. You can fold the paper in half so you have two columns. On one column, you're going to write concerns. On the other column, you are going to write confidence. Whatever thoughts you have that are creating concerns, whatever you're worried about when it comes to your presentation, write them in the concerns column. Those thoughts will become mental bullies if you do not expose them. You have to get them out of your head and into plain sight so that you can deal with them. On the other column, the confidence column, you are going to write one reason why you can overcome the concern. For example, people have the concern that they will misspeak or they will mispronounce something when they are giving a presentation. Well, that's the concern column. In the confidence column, you can write something like, well, if that happens, I will ask the audience's pardon and I will restate it for clarity. You have to expose those thoughts so they don't control how you are responding to the opportunity to give your presentation. Second, it is important to prepare things you are going to say during your presentation. If you are experiencing procrastination when it comes to the preparation aspect for your presentation, then you're going to try using the 2-minute rule. This is how you use the 2-minute rule to overcome procrastination. Get your cell phone or set a timer on your computer, anything that has a timer. Set it for 2 minutes. Before you press start, make sure you have something to write with, something to write on. So if you're going to use paper to pencil, or if you're going to use your laptop, whatever, to help write down thoughts. Number 2, before you press start on your timer and before you sit down to write, find songs that help to keep you motivated and focused. Play those songs. The music is an important step because music can be soothing and comforting. So make sure you find songs to help you stay focused and motivated. Now that you have your timer set, you have your writing resources, and you have your music playing, start the timer and write down anything you know about the topic you are going to discuss. Do not aim for perfection. Just write down whatever comes to mind and continue to write for the entire 2 minutes. Write down anything, even if you have to write A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Write something down. Continue to write consistently for 2 minutes. When the 2-minute timer rings, and if you're still in the mood to keep writing, keep going. When the 2-minute timer rings and you're not quite feeling like you've worked up enough ideas to overcome the procrastination, set the timer again for 2 more minutes. Repeat this process for up to 10 minutes. When you commit to this process for up to 10 minutes, you've successfully overcome the procrastination. You now have a framework to help you continue to develop your ideas and the information you plan to share during your presentation. The third thing you can do to overcome pre-performance anxiety is to activate all 5 of your senses in a pleasant way. Smell something that smells good to you. Feel fabrics that feel comforting to you, or hug yourself. Drink tea. Drink some type of tea or flavored water. Avoid alcohol. Save that for the celebration after you've successfully delivered your presentation. Listen to pleasant sounds, be it music, if you enjoy listening to birds. Some people like the sound of rain. Some people like the sound of running water. Listen to pleasant sounds. Admire something beautiful. Look at flowers. Look at art. Whatever you do, activate all 5 senses in a pleasant way, because the goal is to release feel-good chemicals in your brain like endorphins and serotonin and oxytocin. You want to purposely stimulate the release of feel-good chemicals in association with getting prepared for your presentation. Those are 3 easy things you can do to overcome pre-performance anxiety. Now let's talk about 3 easy things you can do to deal with performance anxiety in the moment when it is time to give your presentation. Number 1, avoid reading. Avoid trying to read your presentation word for word, because you run the risk of stumbling over words even more. Second, that's the quickest way to disengage the audience. Third, it does not necessarily guarantee you will include all of the information you were planning to say, because now reading can contribute to a higher level of anxiety, because what if you stumble over words or you start to speak even faster? That happens a lot when people read. Use the 3-3-3 anxiety management technique to calm the nervousness in the moment. This is how you use the 3-3-3 anxiety management technique. You will find 3 different focal points in your environment. You can look at the left wall, the right wall, and straight ahead or slightly up overhead at the ceiling. Find one spot on the left wall and look at 3 different things about that one spot on the left wall. Some things you may want to focus on are the color, the texture, whether or not there is light shining on that spot. Find 3 different things and count to 3 in your head. 1, color. 2, texture. 3, no light. Then change your focus to the other point you've decided to focus on. So if you started by looking at the left wall, now change to the right wall. And again, focus on 1, color. 2, texture. 3, there's no light shining on the wall. Then move to the third point that you've decided to focus on. If that's the ceiling overhead, I discourage looking all the way up to the ceiling, but slightly lift your eyes up towards the ceiling. And again, count those 3 things. 1, color, it's white. 2, texture, it's bumpy. 3, there's light coming from the ceiling. This 3-3-3 technique helps to bring you back to the present and helps to ground you and your thoughts. If your voice starts to shake when you are speaking, this is the second thing you can do in the moment to help overcome the performance anxiety you're experiencing. Slightly deepen the pitch in your voice and speak slower. The slightly deeper pitch in your voice can help create a vibration sensation. That vibration is almost like comforting. It's self-soothing. And when you deepen the pitch in your voice just slightly, that also helps to modify your speaking rate. It can contribute to you speaking slower. When you are speaking slower, it encourages the proper flow of air through your windpipes, which can help reduce the sound of your voice shaking while you are speaking. The third thing you can do when you are experiencing performance anxiety and you want it to go away, especially if your hands are shaking, is to put your hands together in a steeple format. That means the tips are touching and it's in a triangular shape like this. Many powerful people use the steeple when they are speaking. But for you, if your hands are shaking, number 1, the touch, tactile, is a self-regulating behavior. Number 2, it helps your hands to be controlled. And you can move your hands back and forth. Slightly moving your hands back and forth helps to relieve nervousness in a discreet manner. Now let's talk about 3 things you will do to overcome post-performance anxiety. First, you are going to immediately hydrate. As soon as you say the last word in your presentation, before anybody asks any questions, always have water nearby and take a sip of water immediately as soon as you say the last word in your presentation. Second, the first message you are going to send to yourself is, I did it. I gave my presentation. Avoid allowing negative thoughts to seep in right away. If you have to write the words I did it on a piece of paper in front of you, or if you have to think I did it to yourself, or even if you have to slightly mumble to yourself. If you are using a microphone, make sure you remove the microphone from your mouth, but say to yourself, I did it. Feed the reward center in your brain. Number 3, be intentional about how you reflect on your presentation. First, start by intentionally identifying 3 things you did well. Number 1, you did show up. Number 2, you at least spoke. Even if you didn't say everything you were planning to say, you spoke. And number 3, identify something that went well. Was there a time when someone in the audience said, validating the information you were sharing? Was there a moment where you said things that you had intended to say? Intentionally find 3 things to celebrate that you did well in the presentation you just delivered. After you have identified 3 things you did well, find only 1 thing that you plan to do better the next time you give your presentation, and make that your goal for your next presentation. And the next time you give your presentation, you know that's going to be one of the 3 things you identify as something you did well in your presentation. I have only scratched the surface about all of the different techniques you can use to overcome pre-performance anxiety, performance anxiety, and post-performance anxiety. There are many more, but tell me in the comments which one of the techniques you plan to try for your next presentation.